All right, guys. So the Democrats are currently in a civil war in Congress, right? They're fighting over this $3.5 trillion social spending plan, okay? That the Biden administration claims that they want. Now, the only thing that's in their way is Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, and also low-key Mitch McConnell as well, too. I did a video about that yesterday. You guys should check it out in regards to what's going on with the debt limit if you haven't already. But because Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema seem to be in the way of Biden trying to save his presidency, the mainstream liberal media is going to come out here and start to go after them hard, right? They're not going to ask questions about why the hell do we need to spend $3.5 trillion more when we're $29 trillion in debt, and where we're going to get this money from and how we're going to pay for it. No. They don't ask those questions, right? They just attack Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema as if what they're doing is inherently wrong, right? And one of the left-wing liberal, commentators, I ain't gonna say political commentator, she's just a commentator, Joy Behar on The View, had some strong words for Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, essentially calling them the enemies of democracy because of their opposition to spending $3.5 trillion more. Take a look.
What I think is making Joe Biden's administration shaky right now is what's going on between the Democrats in his own party, between the moderates and the progressives, because he was really on track to be the next Lyndon Johnson with the Great Society programs, which included, I'll just read a few: infrastructure, we know about that, roads and bridges, everything's falling apart. Spending on social programs like childcare, universal pre-K, expanded Medicare, large-scale climate change policy, which we're desperate. We just lost another enormous number of birds, I understand, are becoming extinct. But the Democrats have the numbers to make it happen. But Manchin and Sinema are standing in their way.
Especially Sinema.
They call themselves Democrats, and they will be the ruination of this nation. Those two. First of all, Joe Manchin is never going to vote for climate change things because he gets $500,000 a year from coal production. Kyrsten Sinema she went to some kind of I don't know what it is. She went to a fundraiser scheduled this week with business lobbying groups that fiercely oppose Biden's social and climate spending bill. They don't want their taxes to be raised, and she's on their team. These people are destroying the country, in my opinion. We are so in trouble in this country. I don't know if people understand how dire the situation is. If Joe Biden loses, if the Democrats lose, the Republicans, who are so corrupt right now, and we all know that, they will move in. Trump will run in 2024. He might win because of all the cheating that's going on. We cannot let this happen. Manchin and Sinema must be brought to task. They are the enemies right now of the democracy, as you pointed out before. That yes, we have a great democracy, but it is really on life support right now because of these two people.
I am trying to figure out what Sinema's end goal is, because she does call herself a Democrat. She represents Arizona, which went blue. She's working with Mark Kelly, who seems to be doing the right thing, seems to be standing on principle.
Right.
But I don't understand what her goal is, and I don't think she's listening to her
keep
constituents.
her job like the rest of them.
Maybe the thing is to invite them both. We've had Manchin here, and we didn't really get deep into the question.
We had Sinema too.
We had Sinema, so
I didn't like
maybe
a lot
it's
of her
time.
answers. I didn't believe her.
Maybe it's time to re-ask those questions because they're important. They're important. And listen, America is in a lot better shape than we think. The mere fact that we're having this conversation tells us this. This is one of the few. Go ahead.
All of those things that I mentioned, childcare, Medicare expansion, those things are so popular with the American people.
Yes.
Does Joe Manchin think that in West Virginia they don't need expanded Medicaid?
Apparently not.
I mean, his own constituency needs it.
Yeah. All right, guys. So you see that, you heard that. First and foremost, before I get into my commentary about them going in on Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, I want to say, did you hear Joy Behar talk about Trump cheating in 2024? So apparently it's okay for Democrats, people on the left, to accuse people on the right of cheating, right? Or trying to steal an election. But if somebody on the right accuses Democrats of doing that, you might get banned, right? You might get banned. You might get deplatformed. Your life might be ruined. But this person, Joy Behar, is already saying before 2024 that, you know, if Trump runs and he wins, he's going to win because of all the cheating going on. Again, it just blows my mind how they just make these claims that are just outright false, and they have no evidence whatsoever to support what they're saying, right? But only one side can say that, right? Only one side can make those claims, apparently, right? And I wonder if The View will get banned for saying things like that, right? I wonder if they'll get banned for saying that. But in regards to Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, it's just so funny, right? How she's reading from progressive talking points. Like, these are not even her own thoughts. She has a note card of things where she says, well, you know, Kyrsten Sinema, she went to this business meeting, and these businesses oppose the bill, and she's with them at the meeting, so therefore she's a sellout, right? And listen, I'm not saying politicians are not sellouts. All of them are sellouts, right? Every single last one of them. They're all sellouts. But Joy Behar didn't come to that conclusion on her own. She just took whatever talking points that was given to her and just said it, right? And used her platform to go after Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin. And, you know, she goes through this wish list of things that are supposed to be in the bill, and it's like, oh, isn't this great, right? Why would they not want this? And she doesn't comprehend, like, the idea that, first of all, it's $3.5 trillion. And they're ramming all this stuff in one bill. What is the actual execution, right? Because we can have these big government programs, but if the execution is lacking, then that's not good for society, right? Why is it that people support a $3.5 trillion bill with all this stuff in it that nobody's going to read about, that nobody's going to know how it's going to be executed? It's just going to be a whole bunch of money spent, and we don't really know how it's going to work. We don't know how any of this stuff is going to work. Why is it that people can't just vote on each individual thing, right? If you want universal daycare or childcare or pre-K, whatever you want to call it, vote on it individually. That's a big enough program that you should be voting on that individually, right? I'm really just against a lot of this stuff in principle at this point, right? A lot of this spending. Just because of the mere fact that it's stuffed in one huge bill that nobody's going to read. But Joy Behar, by default, just supports it, even though she has no clue what's in the bill, right? She has no clue. She has no clue that they are essentially allowing access into people's bank accounts in this bill. She has no clue about that. But she just thinks it's just all good. It's just all good. It's going to solve climate change. Nothing that we do is going to solve climate change, right? If the U.S. reduced our emissions down to zero, that's not solving climate change, right? Not unless China, Europe, India, right? All the other developed nations in the world get on board with the same thing. It ain't doing nothing, right? So it's going to be a whole bunch of money spent on stuff, in my opinion, that is not really going to fix the problem. But again, Joy Behar doesn't think about it that way. I mean, I'm surprised she didn't go out there and give the left-wing talking point of this $3.5 trillion bill costing zero, right? It's going to cost nothing. Don't worry about it. It's free. She thinks it's Democrats good, Republicans bad, right? And she sees Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema as bad because they're opposed to Biden's socialist agenda. And she immediately accuses them of being sellouts, right? As if they don't know what's best for their state. As if they're not representing their constituents. West Virginia and Arizona are swing states. Yes, I believe West Virginia might actually went red and Arizona went blue, right? But they're swing states. John McCain was a senator in Arizona. So Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, in regards to representing their populations, they need to be more moderate, right? They have to be closer to the center than the progressive left, right? And here's the deal. Here's the deal. If their constituents don't agree with them, right, then guess what? They can vote them out, right? Guess what? They don't have to donate money to their campaigns. We have a process for that. It's called democracy. What Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema are doing is democracy. That's how it works. That's how it works. And I'm going to keep it 100 with you. I'm going to keep it 100 because I'm going to try to be fair. That's the same thing what happened when the Republicans tried to get rid of Obamacare, right? And they couldn't get a few Republicans on board with it. The reason why is because those Republicans were afraid that taking away Obamacare would hurt their state, right? So they didn't vote for it. Okay? I mean, that's democracy, right? That's how it works. So what happens is if the people of that state feel that was the wrong thing for the senators or the representatives to vote for, then you vote them out. That's how it works, right? You vote them out. That's how democracy works. So all of a sudden, if anybody's opposed to Joe Biden, they are the enemies of the people, whether they're Democrats or Republicans. You see how the game works now? They're playing for the team of Joe Biden. It's their guy, Joe. And I just find it amazing how none of these people ever say, hey, you know what? Maybe 3.5 trillion is too much. Maybe they need to come back more towards the middle. Maybe they need to spend less. I mean, at this point, I would rather have nothing, which is why I love what Mitch McConnell is doing in terms of trying to make them burn their last reconciliation on raising the debt limit, right? Because that means that not only would they not be able to do 3.5 trillion, they just wouldn't be able to do reconciliation at all. They wouldn't be able to spend anything. Because there is a chance that Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema could agree to say spend, let's say, 1.5 trillion instead, or 1 trillion, right? On top of the 1.2 trillion bipartisan package. They could do that. But again, at this point, like I said, I'm just not in agreement with these bills that do all this stuff and nobody ever reads it, and there's a bunch of stuff packed in there that's going to waste a whole bunch of taxpayer dollars, right? We're raising taxes on everybody, not just the rich, but on everybody, purely to pay for a bunch of programs that we don't even know how we're going to execute. Look at how we executed on the rental assistance, right? $40+ billion for rental assistance, and people couldn't even get it before the eviction moratorium expired. You know why? Because that's how big government programs work. They're inefficient, right? When you pass all this stuff in one huge bill, it gets executed sloppily, right? Bureaucracy gets in the way. And that's the problem. These people, they don't understand that. They're just playing for Team Joe. And it looks like they're worried. They're worried that Trump might beat Joe, which, in my opinion, I think if the election was held today, I think Trump will win. I think he will win. And they are very, very afraid of that. They're so afraid that they're already accusing Trump of cheating, right? Sounds familiar. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.